From jumping back and forth in time to give more depth to the story, to finally giving Lady Danbury her chance at true love, here's why the Bridgerton TV show is so much better than the book. While Queen Charlotte might not have been the center of the ton in the books, Golda Rochauvel's performance was so mind-blowing on the show that it left all of us wanting more. Luckily, Shonda Rhimes teamed with the original author of the Bridgerton series, Julia Quinn, to give us all the juicy details about Charlotte and George's love story. But even after that, the book's no match for the show. For starters, unlike the Queen Charlotte spin-off show, which keeps moving between the past and the present, the book's main focus is just the early years of the Great Experiment. And don't get me wrong, while I absolutely love the fact that we got to see and read about the couple's love story from the beginning, the fact that the show gave us stark comparisons between their dynamic from the start of their relationship toward the worsening of the king's condition made the show seem a lot more authentic and complete. Fans appreciated the context most flashbacks gave to the present-day scenes, and when you factor in the Easter eggs that Shonda left for viewers to catch on, it all comes full circle at the end. The book did a great job of giving different perspectives from different characters. I mean, as if learning more about George and his illness wasn't sad enough already, the fact that we even got chapters from Brimsley's point of view was also very heartbreaking. Both Shonda and Quinn really switched gears to give us the perfect romance, but if the book came out before the show and was somehow adapted into a TV show, it wouldn't have been such a hit. Here's the thing. The book sidelined a lot of storylines and characters from the show, even removing one of the biggest plot points from it. For example, there's no race for an heir in the book. A major part of the show was set in the present day, following the events of the second season of Bridgerton, with Anthony Bridgerton and Kate Sharma's wedding making big news around the ton.
Miss Edwina, you look lovely.
Thank you, my lord. I'm happy you are pleased.
The Queen seemed desperate for a royal baby in Queen Charlotte. After the death of the Prince Regent's only daughter, who was also the only legitimate grandchild of the royal household, tensions were through the roof for the monarchy. The present-day plot in the show focused a lot on Charlotte's single-minded drive to get her children to marry, just so they can get a legitimate heir to carry on the bloodline. But somehow in the books, this storyline's almost non-existent. I mean, sure, the royal children were briefly mentioned in the books, but except for Princess Charlotte's death in the prologue, and that word-for-word epilogue at the end, where the Queen tells George that they have a grandchild on the way, there's not much about the royal children in the book. In the show, you have about 15 royal children, but neither of them successfully carried the royal lineage forward. Eventually, this became a huge catalyst for the plotline, going deeper into how the king and queen struggled to consummate their marriage, to preserve the bloodline on their own, showing how important having an heir is for the monarchy. No doubt, Shonda and Julia did a great job of giving readers an inside look at Charlotte and George's days as a young couple, but at the same time, it took away focus from other supporting characters who fans were rooting for. I mean, Violet Bridgerton's storyline from the present-day timeline was completely wiped out from the book, and again, I know it was intentional, but this is also why the show's so much better. While we do get overwhelming amounts of the king and queen's passionate romance, the supporting characters also get a chance to shine on their own. On screen, Violet slowly and painfully realizes that she's, after all, only a woman who longs for romance and intimacy, something she thought she'd never have after her husband Edmund's death. She confides her true feelings in Lady Danbury, who in turn consoles her with stories of her own troublesome marriage and the freedom of her widowhood. Agatha and Violet's budding friendship was a wholesome addition to the show, and that's why many fans were glad that Shondaland was exploring the importance of female friendships, even in the Regency era. Violet's absence from the book might have been a creative decision by the authors, considering how the younger version of her character doesn't exactly have any role in the king and queen's romance. But this made the book just another love story, and we all know Bridgerton's all about the drama too. The timeline of the book and the show are a bit muddled too, honestly. While the book explicitly says that the present-day scenes take 56 years after the flashbacks, when you consider the ages of the characters on the show, the math doesn't actually add up. 'Cause if that's the case, then this puts both Lady Danbury and the Queen in their 70s in the present day, and if you've seen the show, then the two ladies look far from that. Queen Charlotte's also not the first time the Regency era show has strayed away from its source material. Seasons 1 and 2 of Bridgerton had plenty of changes that were often a hit or miss. And if I start listing them here one by one, it'd probably take me a couple of hours. From Simon and Daphne's first meeting, to Canthony's bee sting scene, that weird plotline with Marina Thompson, and not to mention Lady Whistledown's big reveal, which was surprisingly very early on in the show. It was clear Shonda definitely put her own spin on the series. For her, it's always been about amping up the drama, but in this case, she made a choice that was appreciated by a lot of fans. One of the most prominent changes to the story was the diversity of characters on the show, which wasn't exactly a thing of the past from Quinn's original book series. While the Netflix show features many people of color among its cast, in positions of high ranking and power, in the books, almost all the characters are presumably white. Some fans say that this was maybe Shonda's way of trying to remain historically accurate too. After all, many historians do believe that Queen Charlotte was England's first mixed-race royal, after a genetic expert tracked her lineage concluding that she was. This was a breath of fresh air for many fans, as well as Rochevelle, who felt like this decision was empowering for an actress like her to play a character from the 1800s, fighting for her people and representation, at a time when there was a clear divide in society. Having characters with relatable backgrounds earned some major brownie points from fans, and that's the show's been a roaring success since its premiere. Like I said, while the book's done a wonderful job of keeping some of the original storylines from the show, at the same time, it's been a little unfair to some of the characters, and one of the major ones that took a hit was none other than Lady Danbury. Even though both the show and the book showed Agatha's life as a young widow, there was a major storyline that never saw the light of day in the novel. Sure, both versions of the story have touched on her trauma after losing her much older husband, and how she views marriage as a convenience. The show gives more meaning to her character. In the book, Lady Danbury's journey's reduced to focusing on securing her family's future, with only a hint of romance that comes after her brief fling with the Queen's brother, Prince Adolphus. Now, did I root for the two of them? Of course I did. But as someone who's seen her forming a bond with Violet's father, Lord Ledger, who's already in an unhappy marriage of his own, might I add, I was shipping them like no other. And the fans also wanted to get deeper into this storyline in the book. Not only was Agatha finally able to water her garden, if you know what I mean, but she finally experienced what true love felt like in her affair with Lord Ledger. In the books, the two authors completely miss this storyline. In fact, if I recall correctly, Lord Ledger barely appears once in passing, before he's never brought up again. Fans think the novel robbed them of more banter between the couple, and just how intense this forbidden romance could have been, in a time as conservative as the Regency era. Thank God for the show though, am I right? So, from finally giving Lady Danbury her chance at true love, to jumping back and forth in time to give more depth to the story, this was why the Bridgerton TV show is so much better than the book.